A farmer's plow hits a 200-pound stone in Minnesota. What he found on it would split academia in two for 130 years. November 1898. Olof Öhman, a Swedish immigrant working land near Kensington, Minnesota, was clearing trees from a field. His son was there. They were moving rocks, routine work, the kind that leaves no room for drama. What Öhman didn't know yet was that one of those stones would become the most contested artifact in American archaeology. He couldn't have known, standing there in the Minnesota cold, that he'd just made a decision that would cost him credibility for the rest of his life. The stone was roughly 30 inches tall, weighed 200 pounds. One side bore carved text, runes specifically, runic script, not English, not French, not anything colonial America had left behind. Öhman kept it. For 2 years he kept it. Then in 1900 he showed it to a Swedish clergyman named Fredrik Lindholm. Lindholm looked at it, and within weeks, word spread through Scandinavian communities in the region. A Viking artifact, people whispered, in Minnesota on a farm. The text, when translated, read, 8 Swedes and 22 Norwegians on an expedition far west from Vinland. We had camped by 2 skerries 1 day's journey north of this stone. We were out fishing one day. When we came home, we found 10 men red with blood and dead. Ave Maria, save us from evil. And it was dated 1362, nearly 200 years before Columbus. That date alone changed everything, or it would have, if anyone could agree on whether the stone was real. By 1907, the stone was being examined by scholars. Some were convinced. Professor George Kerm of Northwestern University said the runes were authentic. He'd spent his career on Old Norse linguistics. He wasn't a casual observer. But others, notably Knut H. Hjalmar Stahl, a Swedish archaeologist, began asking hard questions. The rune pattern seemed off. The stone's weathering pattern didn't match the supposed age. Stahl made a calculation. If this was 1362, the erosion should look different. It didn't. Here's what Öhman faced, and this matters. He was being asked to defend a discovery he hadn't sought. Scholars were turning hostile. The academic establishment was splitting. In 1910, Öhman made a choice. He donated the stone to a local historical society. He stepped back. He didn't make a public confession. He didn't double down. He simply withdrew. For someone who'd done nothing but find a rock, he just paid an enormous social cost. But the stone didn't go away. In the 1920s, a horticulturist named H. Hjalmar Holland became obsessed with it. He'd visited Minnesota, seen it in person, and he was convinced of its authenticity. Holland spent decades, literally decades, gathering supporting evidence. He found references to Vinland in Norse sagas. He mapped possible Viking routes. He published books. He wasn't a trained archaeologist, which mattered to the skeptics, but he also wasn't trying to profit. He was spending his own time and money on conviction. By mid-century, the stone had become a symbol. To Scandinavian Americans, it was proof that their ancestors had reached North America centuries before the English. To academic skeptics, it was the most elaborate hoax ever executed, or, more charitably, a misidentified fraud that nobody could quite pin down. The problem was this: nobody could definitively prove either case. You couldn't carbon date stone. You couldn't prove when the runes were carved. Then came 1973. A geologist named George Strandberg examined the stone under magnification. He found something, scratches on the rune faces that looked recent, 20th century tool marks possibly. His conclusion: someone had carved these runes after Öhman found the stone. Maybe Öhman himself, maybe someone else. The hoax theory suddenly had physical evidence. Believers immediately countered. Those marks could be from excavation, from moving the stone, from modern handling. The real pressure point came when researchers asked a harder question: who would have carved it and why? Öhman was illiterate in Old Norse. He couldn't have done it himself. So either a skilled forger was living in rural Minnesota in the 1890, a person with deep linguistic knowledge and no motive, or the stone was genuinely medieval. Both scenarios required belief in something unlikely. In 2000, a team led by geochemist Scott Wolter used X-ray diffraction to analyze the stone's patina, the weathered surface layer. Their finding: the patina was consistent with 500-year-old exposure, not 100 years, not recent. Wolter became convinced the stone was authentic, but other geologists disagreed with his methodology. The debate again came down to interpretation. Two experts, same data, opposite conclusions. Here's what we know. Öhman made a discovery, that's certain. He reported it honestly, or so the record suggests. But what he found, nobody can fully verify or fully debunk. The stone sits today in a museum in Alexandria, Minnesota. Thousands visit it every year. Some see proof of Viking exploration. Others see the world's most persistent historical mistake. The stone itself is silent. What makes this case so durable isn't the stone. It's the gap between what we want to believe and what we can prove. Scandinavian Americans wanted a hero narrative. Academics wanted certainty. Öhman, the man at the center, wanted to clear his field. He paid the price for finding something ambiguous. And 126 years later, we're still paying it, still arguing, still examining, still unable to close the case. The Kensington Runestone teaches a hard lesson about evidence and belief. Every piece of data the stone has yielded has been interpreted two ways. Patina thickness could be medieval or could be natural weathering accelerated by Minnesota winters. Tool marks could be forger's work or could be damage from excavation. The stone is a mirror. It reflects back whatever you bring to it. And that's the real mystery. Not whether Vikings reached Minnesota, that's a factual question, waiting for better evidence. The real mystery is how a farmer's decision to move a rock became a 130-year argument that no amount of science has resolved. Öhman didn't start this. He just found it. But his name will be tied to it forever. Subscribe. Every week we uncover a new artifact that rewrites history or proves it was never true to begin with.